In today's fast-paced world, credit cards are synonymous with convenience and with reward points. Yet, as we continue as a nation getting deeper into credit card debt, with the amount of $1.13 trillion in credit card debt, is it really worth it? Is it advantageous to continue using those credit cards? That's what we're going to be breaking down in today's video. Now, overall, if you're carrying balances on a rewards card, you are paying for those rewards and you're paying them sometimes 5, 10, 20x what the actual value of the points are. So starting with the first one, the rewards magnet. Now this of course is the lure. It is the hook that we see. It could be 50,000, 150,000 miles when it comes to some of the travel cards. It could be the 2% cash back, the 500 bonus for signing up, the $2,000 bonus that Capital One was offering myself for signing up. Now there's a reason why they are offering you these really big bonuses, because they know as soon as you start using that card, it is going to lead to overspending. And through all the surveys, through everything we see, people that use credit cards instead of debit cards spend on average 15 to 20% more per year just because they feel like they're getting something back with those rewards programs. It can be a little bit deceiving when you start running that interest tab up and when you start overspending. Next part we look at is investing the rewards. Now, for a lot of people, not only do they utilize the rewards that they have there, but again, the bonus money is a reality check that kind of people leave unchecked as the monthly balance grows. Like I said before, you're spending and you're essentially paying for the reward points that you're getting if you're carrying the balance. Now, a lot of people always think right off the bat, I'm going to beat the credit card companies. I'm going to get ahead of the game. I'm going to pay this off every single month. For majority of people, if you don't have that emergency fund really built up, you are not going to pay off that in its entirety, meaning that the reliance of credit cards is just going to snowball, meaning it is going to be more expensive. You're not using your income or living outside of your means because the supplementing is with credit card debt. Now, looking at a financial viewpoint, now, of course, this goes right back to Dave Ramsey that says living the debt-free life, not using credit cards in their entirety, because not only the philosophy of how the credit cards are used and how people do use the credit cards, but also the nature of the credit card itself. Now, they're saying in a study from the government that it is the biggest wealth transfer tool that we do see in the nation. When you're taking the money or essentially the interest for people that cannot pay, transferring it to these individuals that they're offering high yield rewards, it is really the only way, again, on one side of it that you can take advantage of it if you're paying it off in its entirety. But essentially the people that can't afford to pay it off are the ones that are footing the bill for all of your rewards. And of course, with the credit cards, it is a very slippery slope, like we said, with spending. Majority of places, it is super easy to pay for literally anything with a tap, with a swipe, with it having stored into anywhere that you shop online, even on your phone, putting in a mobile wallet. They have made it incredibly not only incentive tied to overspending, but also you will lose track of what you're spending if you're not budgeting properly and going outside with those impulse purchases because it is incredibly convenient. Now, of course, this is a growing concern as a nation. $1.13 trillion in credit card debt, like we said, which means the average household carries about $7,000 in credit card debt. Now, if you have zero, there's somebody else that's carrying the 14K for you. And of course, they also show that it is 15 to 20% more likely to overspend when you're using that card. So looking at the big picture, this is kind of crazy. When you look at the average credit card debt, it has went up faster and faster as we see rising inflation, as we see rising consumer price index or CPI. We are starting to see credit card balances surge. In the last 2 years, we're talking 35% up in just over 2 years, which again is kind of incredible to think that we have charged 30% more on credit card balances than we have, previously in decades past, which is crazy to think the interest bill on that. And that is where I really think when you look at inflation, when you look at credit cards and really the reliance, a lot of people are using these credit cards to supplement income because they're not budgeting properly. I know things are getting more expensive, but a majority of people get their income, they have what they have in expenses, and then whatever they're short at the end of the month, that is the supplement that they're getting with credit cards. But this cannot go on forever. And that is really something that we have to touch on, is if you're supplementing your income with credit card debt, you're going to be actually snowballing the interest as the balance continues to get higher. The interest is going to just accumulate. That monthly payment is going to get higher. And now, even where we've seen interest rates on credit cards have gone up, doesn't mean they're going down anytime soon, but the reliance on them is making a very hefty dent into what you're actually paying in interest on those cards. And the way that I always relate it is when you look at interest on a credit card, how many hours do you have to work just to foot the interest bill that you're paying on those cards? It's incredibly expensive with debt in general. That is why on this, we're going for the debt-free journey. We're trying to get rid of all of the debt in its entirety. Now, also with credit cards, it can be a reality check. For many, it is really the revolving balances that they have. But when you look at the financial strategies, you have to look at the cons of the credit card in addition to the pros of the credit cards. For a majority of people, especially if you're carrying a balance, the cons are way higher because, again, what you're paying in interest to get those miles, you could have bought a cheaper flight yourself. What you're getting back in those cashback cards, you could have saved if you were budgeting properly and not overspending. And of course, getting towards the step-free, debt-free life that we've been looking at, alarming credit card balances are do not spell the end. One chart you can get back to really financial stability and financial freedom is putting them away. That is a big thing. I know it's going to be difficult, and for a lot of people, it's going to be incredibly hard. And I really do challenge you with this. Ceasing the credit card usage, meaning that you're going to a cash system, you're going to a debit card system. Even if this is temporarily stop using the credit cards, trying to get it under control or trying to keep it from getting to the point that you can no longer control it, meaning the balances have gotten too high. It is now eating up too much of your income and you don't have the ability to get out of it. Now, how can we do this? Budgeting. This is really the power of the modern budget, the spending plan, whatever you want to call it, guys. If you have and are carrying credit card debt, you need to get it under control. This means really dissecting exactly what you're spending, where your money is going. There's a lot of digital tools. There's even the old school pen and paper where you're writing down your actual budget. You have to know how much you make minus how many expenses you have to see what you have at the end of the month to save, to invest, to repay that debt, to eliminate and not accumulate it again, which is the reason why taking those cards and putting them kind of on cold storage or not using them. And I really challenge you, 30 to 60 days, no credit card spending. See exactly what it looks like. See what it looks like for your budget. See where you're running out of money if you're running out of money. Now, of course, this goes hand in hand with pinpointing the unnecessary expenditures. When we look at our impulse spending, $2,500 to $3,000 a month, or excuse me, a year is what they say. So $2,500 to $3,000 is what they say on average Americans spend on impulse purchases, meaning it is something that is not really needed, is more of a want. And with these purchases, it is something that you never intended to buy, which again can be detrimental when you think of the amount in relationship to the income you're bringing in. And of course, once you have those cards on cold storage, we have the budget under control. You can even look at debt consolidation. Now, we've talked about this quite a bit of times. When you look at the overwhelming multiple debts, when you got a bunch of credit cards, debt consolidation can be one of the absolute best tools in the world if it is used properly. Now, what I mean by that, if you're looking at a debt consolidation scenario and you're consolidating a bunch of the credit card debt, number one, you cannot rack up that credit card debt again, or you're going to be right back in the same cycle where you're making those higher interest payments on that high interest debt. But now you're also paying on a loan that you might have for 3, 5, 6 years. You couple of those two, it's going to be bad, guys. It really does spell doom. But if you can get it under control, if you can consolidate it, well, putting those credit cards, budgeting properly, making sure you have enough to cover your expenditures makes a really big difference. And of course, goes hand in hand with our emergency fund. You have to have an emergency fund. It is really something that is imperative to everybody. And it doesn't make a difference if you make, $5,000 or if you make $500,000. You got to have something to fall back on. I cannot stress this enough. When you start looking at individuals that make an extraordinary amount of income, most of them are living paycheck to paycheck. When we even starting getting into the $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 in earners, they are living paycheck to paycheck, which is kind of crazy. So it might take a little bit of accountability, really looking at the financial realities. Where you're at a point in time doesn't mean it is a point that you have to carry further. This could be the point that is going to be the turning point to the road to financial wellness, to the road to your debt-free journey, getting it under control and making sure that you're not spending it anymore. So definitely knowing the true cost of credit cards is going to be a wake-up call for a lot of people, having the realization of exactly the impact that they have on them. But let me know in the comments what you guys think, and I'll catch you in the next video.